declining under the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government. Did you hear the GBA say a word? No. The domestic debt exchange program, it left our mothers, our grandmothers, the older people, very impoverished. They looked into your face and said, we won't give your monies to you. It even saw the former CJ picketing at the finance ministry. We all could attest to that. Did you hear the GBA say anything?
But is that not the point Mr. Bento made earlier, that if there was, because these GBA,
Yeah.
I mean, the leadership has been different. And so if you have criticism against the GBA, you look at the leaders that were in place when they were silent, rather than kind of putting everybody together and saying that you're being selective or doing selective advocacy.
Beatrice, I'll come to that. Let me just end. Don't break my flow. Let me just end. Then you would appreciate where I'm coming from. The last one is the Galamsey menace. When the then government issued license, as if they were issuing granules, candies to party cohorts who lacked experience in basic mining. Did you hear the GBA talking? And so now, there's even a latest one from Manasseh, the fourth estate. He's talking about the licenses that had been issued, about 5, to get into our forest areas since independence, or since we started mining in this country. But between 2022 to 2024, when the MPP took over, they gave 10, twice of what we've ever experienced in this country. That is from Manasseh. You can cross it. I think it just came out yesterday or 2 days ago. And so with all this, why won't somebody petition the Supreme Court? What are they seeking to achieve? I can't mention his name, but I can mention the Honorable Roxanne, the other petitioner who is Israel, and
Tete.
Mr. Tete and the society. You see, what are they seeking to achieve? They're just saying we should embrace a diversity. We should embrace fairness and equality, which can be found in Article 17. They're also saying that we should have freedom of association. Because it looks like, mind you, not every lawyer is a member of GBA. And so if we are restricted, that there's only one professional body, mind you, some lawyers also think that the GBA have lost their moral values. That is what some think. Some of the lawyers, and that is why they won't join the association. So if that is the case, we should open up, allow other people to come in. Perhaps they would serve the interests of these lawyers who are yet to identify. That is just what the plaintiffs are saying. Let me say this. I particularly paid attention to the paragraph 4 and 5. I'm not going to read. But you could see about 9 articles.
Yes.
And GBA is featured in all the 9 articles. Be it Judicial Council, Rules of Court Committee, Police Council, Regional Police Committee, National Media Commission, Regional Prisons Committee, Prison Services Council, Lands Commission, Regional Lands Commission. How? They are enjoying an exclusive status, and it has encouraged monopoly. So let's open up. That is what the petitioners are saying. So they have a case.
They have a case.
I think they have a case. And let me add this. For an association with a leader of the GBA, bitches, listen carefully, with a leader of the GBA who almost or aspired to become Ghana's first lady. Why do I say so? Her husband was an aspiring flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party.
You can have a husband and a wife which have different political views?
That I agree.
Are you insinuating
I am
that the fact that Joe Gate is a senior member of the NPP means that the wife is equally so?
You cannot take away public perception. Because the leader, I personally saw her on campaign platforms, sharing Sobolo, T-shirts, jumping, clapping, advocating that people should vote for the spouse. Don't tell me it would have an influence on her judgment with the decision she has to take for the GBA. And so for this reason, some lawyers perhaps would not want to associate with GBA. And so once we have, alternative groupings, then we would not have complaints. So the petitioners are testing what the Constitution has to say and on how we can embrace diversity. That is just it.
Let me, Mr. Bento was on the line before we lost him, so let me get your concluding thought. And if you have any comment on what Madam Obin has just told us before I come to Madam Ayana.
Just want to say, I think there is a bit of overstimulation in this whole exercise. I don't disagree with my brother Roxon in terms of what he's trying to do. I am just wondering why it is generating so much controversy. Maybe all Roxon wants to do is to get clarification that another institution can be formed. But I repeat, I don't think anybody has stopped anybody from forming another institution. And where the rubber meets the road is that he must try and form one. And if he does and somebody stops him, then I think we'll have an issue.
Let me get your thoughts. And Mr. Bent, I want you to hold on for us. Let me get the thought of Madam Ayana on this. Like I was asking Madam Obin earlier, the petitioners are claiming that they are in court because they want to uphold the Constitution. But Madam Obin seems to be linking the political bit with beyond the bit about monopoly and why GBA doesn't have exclusive rights as an association.
Yeah, I quite agree with her. She, when she was referring to the 1992 issue, about the Constituent Assembly and the boycott of the GBA. The interesting aspect of it was that at that time, lawyers who were inclined to the NDC, joined in, but the others didn't because they were inclined to the NPP, and they were mostly those that were belonging to the GBA. But today, it's different. What we are beginning to see is that the GBA has become sort of an appendage of one political party, and another political party also wants to have their own. This is the way I am looking at it. And if we are not careful, we are going to have a problem of one government comes and we have a GBA that is leaning towards it, and another one comes and then they are leaning towards the other. Why I'm saying this is that I want to know where we are going to place this original GBA in the event that Dafiomokpo and his group also win that situation and are able to also form their own association. Where will this association, GBA, be? Because you see, this conference that they had, for instance, I quite remember that Beatrice was here. She's a lawyer. She didn't go because this thing is a voluntary organization. So I think that we must open it out for us to have a discussion as to what or who is going to represent us, Ghanaians, when it comes to legal issues. That advocacy, that fight for justice. Do we want to have, like the British have, a council, a legal council of various associations, legal associations? Then we have representation from all those associations speaking for us. I think that is where we ought to be going. Because if we leave it as it is and we say, okay, Dafiomokpo goes to court and his group goes to court, then they win the case and they decide that, okay, we are going to form an association. I can assure you most of them are going to be NDC. Because today NDC has the lawyers as well. Before, it was mostly NPP. That's the truth. You understand? So we have to be very careful. And I am hoping that if Dafiomokpo and the group are able to win this case, we as a country, we will still sit and decide on what to do. We need a council or a legal body that will be representative of all of us. That would be very important for us to see, because at this rate, the way this country is polarized, unless no one say that this country is not polarized. You even go to the market and you can see that one person says, oh, the economy is doing well. Another person says, oh, the economy is not. And you can always tell the differences. So I am hoping that this thing will come to fruition and we will be able to settle this matter. But we should win. Ghana must win this. Not a situation where we will have two GBAs or two associations. There's the Ghana Bar Association and then the Association of Ghana Lawyers. I think that was what grew and all that. It wouldn't work in our favor.
And I want to come to you, Mr. Bento, just to get your final thoughts on this, and we'll move on to the Richard Japa case regarding the former Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame. But let me read this statement coming from Stephen Penn from WA. He says, good morning, Beatrice. Growing up, I admired the GBA for their advocacy on national issues. However, years down the line, it has become moribund. The Constitutional Review Committee should recommend its expunged from our 1992 Constitution. All other national associations will clamor to be recognized by the Constitution if the GBA is allowed to remain in our national Constitution. The likes of the GMA, NAT, etc. are all national in character and deserve similar recognition, if not better. We have noted the GBA's political lineage in the Fourth Republic. And the question I want to ask you is, if you look at this writ filed by Dafiamepo and the two others, they seem to be suggesting that they want to uphold the Constitution. How do we clean that perception that the GBA over the years has become politicized so that people feel more comfortable that this association is really representing what it says it is, even spelled out on its own website?
Perceptions are figments of people's imaginations. They can be right or wrong. I think that it is true that the nature of the GBA itself, the nature of the legal profession is such that it is likely to be very politically engaged. So to that extent, I think if you say it is political or whatever it is, there is even a necessity for it to be very politically engaged. The issue has been that some, regimes or some executives of the GBA have not been as vocal as others would have wanted them to be. And there are people who think that the GBA should not be that politically active. So to that extent, perceptions should be left to be perceptions. It is true that in the past the GBA was a bit too reticent. And it is true that this particular GBA is more vocal than in the past. So, like I said, we are basically accusing an organization of the sense of its executives in the past, since which clearly the present executives are departing from. So, let us see that for what it is. Again, the issue is, has anybody stopped anybody from starting another association? They can go ahead and do so. As for the mention of the GBA in the Constitution, it is because at the time it was necessary. There was only one GBA, there has only been one GBA, and for the foreseeable future, there was only going to be one GBA. And there's a lot of international precedence to that. If you go, most countries in the world have one overarching professional association profession. And in this case, it was the GBA. Apart from what Mr. Wardbrook did, there has been no real serious challenge to the GBA. And Mr. Wardbrook kind of fizzled out. So there's suggestion that there may not be any other, that it will stand as strong and be as broad as the GBA. It's well-founded. But it is by no means foreclosing anybody's interest if they want to form another one. So I will repeat that I think there's a bit of overstimulation here. What I would suggest to be a starting point is that group that wants another association should just go ahead and form one. Nothing stops them from doing so. And if they do so, it is possible that they will meet some sort of resistance because of how things have been in the past. If they meet the resistance, that defines the problem. Then they can go ahead and deal with that. I will not be opposed to anybody trying to form a different association. I would simply say I doubt if it will be viable going forward. So I think it's a bit of overstimulation, but they have a right to do so. So let's see how this turns out.
Your argument suggests that you probably may disagree with that comment coming through to us, that perhaps we should expunge it from the Constitution and should be seen as any other national association, like we have the Ghana Medical Association, not among others. How do you foresee that panning out?
The line is I didn't get the question.
I'm saying that listening to your submission, it presupposes that you would disagree with those who are saying that we should actually expunge the GBA from the Constitution so that it is seen as any other national organization, like you have the GMA, which is equally the Ghana Medical Association, which is equally a voluntary kind of association. You disagree with that, I suppose?
No, I didn't say that. The GBA has always been what it is. And I said the mention of the GBA in the Constitution was a matter of necessity. You had a situation where since we started from independence, there has only been a GBA. And to that extent, where there was a need to bring them in, to ask them to contribute personnel for some reason, it was the GBA we were going to use. Okay, there could have been an omnibus term to try and bring in others. But at the time, it was just the GBA. So I'm saying, given that it was necessary at the time to put their name there and they were put there, if today we have another institution, we can go ahead and then construe it as we should. But even today, we don't have another GBA. So if anybody goes to change it, what other institution are we talking about?
So they want another association. They want another association. Forgive me, Mr. Bento, just to bring clarity, you asked the question. They want another association that would equally be recognized as the GBA is enjoying right now.
I am saying there is no other association. So the first thing to do is to form the association. In law, there is something called the doctrine of mootness. If we go to try and change the Constitution in the name of making room for another association, we will change the Constitution and there is no other association. Let that association be formed, let it stand, let it grow, and then we will change the law to accommodate it. Today, when you don't have any association and somebody wants to change the law, they can change the law and then go to bed. And they would have stimulated ourselves for nothing. So I repeat, the first thing to do is to try and form another association, make it viable, raise it to the level where it can actually contend with the GBA. Then we can proceed to make room for it. So I don't disagree with them, but I think they have to do things in a certain order, and that's where I disagree. First, they should form an association, and then proceed to court to try and give that association the same place as the GBA. That's all.
Mr. Bento, I still want you to hold on for us because we'll be going into the Richard Jakpa case very shortly. But, Madam Obi, you've got some final words on this very subject before we move on to the next one.
Okay, I'll just say that Mr. Bento keeps on saying they can form another association. He keeps on reiterating that point. There is so much monopoly and power that has been wielded to the GBA. So until we dissolve that, that is when others would be encouraged. In any case, people have shown interest. And so many groups, you would see that once the Supreme Court gives an interpretation, you will see the number of people, the number of lawyers that will spring up. Just like how NAGRAT, concerned teachers have survived. Even with the Broadcast Association, GJA, GIBA, and the likes have survived. Let's give a chance to the law fraternity. That is just it. That is just.
Let me get your final word on this, Madam Ayana, before I go back to Mr. Bento.
I think that I agree with those who think that the GBA must be expunged. You know, I think that we should expunge it, and then also give opportunity to other associations that might be coming up, and then probably out of that form a council, a legal council of some sort. That is maybe a bar council, a Ghana Bar Council, which will be representative of the various law associations that might be coming up. Who knows? Tomorrow we might wake up and then we'll have another Ghana Association of Criminal Lawyers, you know, association of other forms of law. And all those people will then come into that council that I think we should have and then expunge the GBA. The monopoly is too much, and I think the polarization in it is something that we can't deal with.
Let's look forward to what will happen with that case at the Supreme Court, which has been filed. And Mr. Bentel, I was telling you earlier about Richard Jakpa, the now Director of Special Operations at the National Security, going to the Criminal Investigations Department, lodging that complaint or petition against the former Attorney General Godfrey Dame over what he calls misconduct as an AG, because he claims that during that trial, and your lawyer know you followed that case. Eventually, himself and Dr. Kasiel Atoforsin were acquitted. The state did not continue with that case. But he feels that whatever transpired before the determination of the court was a misconduct on the part of the then Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame. And this is coming just 4 months, really, after Mr. Dame was actually dragged to the General Legal Counsel for misconduct. As a lawyer, how do you interpret this? Because the case has already been, the individuals involved have been acquitted. Does it sound like a never-ending case with Richard Jakpa now going to the CID to get Godfred Dame to be brought to order?
Yeah, I think it is not entirely surprising. You find a situation where the oppressed have become the oppressor or the weak have become the strong. Japan is now in power, and those persons that you've mentioned are all in political office or they wield significant political power today. It is very normal that people will use their offices and their powers as they found them to ventilate or prosecute their own agendas. And honestly, it is not wrong per se. What they are doing is following the law to try and, assert what they believe must be the right thing. So he's asked for CID to investigate Dr. Dame and all those other things. I think that it is within his right. Where I worry is the potential abuse of, state power. Because if you go to the CID, you are going to, an institution of state. And we are talking about people who are presently occupying national office. And clearly what they are doing is projecting their power to try and reach somebody who is, in a sense, their adversary. I only worry about the abuse of state power. But to the extent that they are exercising their right, to ask for investigations, as you and I can, and they are asking for matters to be gone through, to ascertain who did wrong or who did right, I really don't have a problem with it. So what we all should watch out for is that there will be no abuses. But if there are no abuses and the state authorities do their work, and it turns out that somebody did something wrong, of course nobody is above the law. So all of that is regular. So I'll simply say, yes, they have a right to go ahead and do what they are doing. In fact, they have other opportunities. I think Mr. Jakpa could have sued simply for malicious prosecution if he wanted. I think they've already gone to the General Legal Counsel. So if they are using this other avenue, to the extent that they don't constitute or they do not engage in an abuse of the powers of the state, I think we should let them go ahead and then let's see how this one is concluded.
But again, I heard you say that perhaps the individuals are now in power and want to pursue their own agenda. I don't know whether you had the opportunity to listen to that phone call between Richard Jakpa when he was then on trial as an agent of Big C and the then Attorney General, and the kind of things that were said on record, which Richard Jakpa has repeated in this petition to the CID. You do not think that perhaps those were grave enough for him to go to the CID to now try to get the former Attorney General to order, asking him to go for an excuse duty from the hospital just so, there could be some time for him to return from outside the country, for them to continue with whatever it is that they were discussing, all of those.
Is that question to me?
Yes.
Right, look, if an issue is raised during a trial, a trial is a place where you say, no, it didn't happen. And then you let the person accusing you bring their evidence. If they bring their evidence, you cross-examine them, you counter the evidence, you prove that it was not so. So a trial is the best way, to put out your issues and have it resolved. So as far as I'm concerned, if the thing has gone to trial and he's been able to prove that it was not what the other party or the prosecution says it is, that should settle it. And if you think that it was maliciously done and, to that extent it wasn't right, you can go ahead and then, file for malicious prosecution or whatever other release there are. But I find it a bit strange that you are invoking the powers of the state, in this case the CID, to investigate somebody who was a prosecutor against you. I am not sure why, But again, I'm saying if there is no abuse there, you and I, if we are offended or affected by somebody's actions, we could appeal to the CID and ask for an investigation. So to that extent, I think he has the right and he has to exercise it. But he is a person in significant position right now. And that position is such that he cannot be described as an ordinary person. He is at the helm of an organ of state, okay, which is a law enforcement institution. He has sufficient powers that he can project. And to the extent that he can project them properly, he can also abuse them. So I think there is a bit of circumspection that has to be exercised here. And to the extent that he's exercising the circumspection and that he's not going to abuse his power and become the oppressor, okay, when he thinks that he was oppressed in the past, then we'll be fine. We are in a situation where it looks like we're on a round robin of this one does this, the next person comes and then they, revenge, and then the next time somebody comes and then they revenge. And if we keep doing that, we are going to break this republic. So I would just urge that we do things within the law. And to the extent that we are doing it within the law and we are not abusing the power, let's see how it ends.
So you talk about abuse of power because the person we're dealing with is currently at the helm of affairs. But I want you to listen to the point 9 of the petition to the CID, where he says, in the circumstance, that's like a summary of all that he said in the previous points he made. I pray that the attempt by Godfrey Dame for me to testify in a particular way so as to dishonestly, wickedly, and without an iota of conscience implicate Honorable Dr. Atofo and to also lie to the court by procuring a false excuse duty which constitute a crime, into bracket fabrication of evidence, be investigated and made to face the full consequence if found to be culpable, because this is very necessary, especially when such diabolical and vicious actions an Attorney General can breach the peace of the country and erode the trust that the public has in the esteemed office of the Attorney General of this country. So I'm just reading this to you again, just to get your understanding of when you say that he's pursuing his own agenda. If he says this in that petition, does it sound like somebody who is pursuing an agenda of his own, rather than stating the fact of what might have happened?
Yes, it sounds to me like somebody is pursuing his agenda. Essentially, he's saying that the Attorney General was telling me I should do something which I didn't believe was true. Now, the Attorney General can say he believed it was true, and he believed that you had the evidence and you could speak to it. Now, to the extent that he says, okay, so you go ahead and do it, and you said, no, it is not true, so I will not do it. As far as I'm concerned, that ends the matter. Here, he's suggesting that the Attorney General had an agenda, and he wanted to use him, to prosecute that agenda. But if he wanted to use you, and you refuse to be used, I really don't see why there's a further issue there. But again, if there is a further issue there, and this is what he's trying to use to try and bring out that issue, then, well, they should go through the process. But as far as I'm concerned, it sounds to me as if somebody says that, oh, I believe Mr. B stole this item. And I believe you saw it or you were there when he stole the item. And so I am asking you to testify to confirm that my belief is true and that he stole the item. And you simply come and tell me that, no, he did not steal the item. Either I wasn't there, I didn't see it, or what I saw was a different thing. And that should end the matter. And I think that is what has happened in court. The matter is over. But if you now come and you say that, oh, this person was trying to get me to falsely accuse Mr. B of doing this and that and that and that, well, maybe there's truth to that. And so if that can be investigated and the truth thereof, be put out, then please let them go ahead. But if you are also now coming in to say that because you have power, you are going to cause the institutions of state to bring this other person in, okay, for investigation and prosecution or whatever it is, simply because they asked you to do something which you said wasn't what you saw, I think there's a bit of a problem there. So again, I am clear in my mind it is a projection of power. I hope that it does not lead to an abuse of power. We live to see how this ends.
We'll live to see how this ends. I want you to hold on just a little bit more for me because I'll come to you for your final word. I just want to get a thought of the panel in the studio here. Madam Ayana, I want to start with you. And perhaps if you have any view on what Mr. Bento just shared with us.
When Mr. Bento talked about people in power using their positions to probably take up certain cases, I just laughed because it just tells me that probably that's what happened in the previous regime. It's just a repetition, and he admitted it, that people are taking revenge, want to take revenge. I think that evidence fabrication is a very serious thing, because I then ask myself, how many people are languishing in jail because of fabricated evidence? If a whole attorney general could do this, then one would ask that maybe we should have a rethink and a relook at all the people who have been jailed during his time. How many of them went to jail because of fabricated evidence? I think that Jakpa has a case, because for anyone to want to go to the extent of fabricating evidence to be able to jail another person who is also a political figure, it is not wrong for us to look out for the right. And I'm looking at a situation where the Attorney General felt that maybe this was nothing. I just want a quick, a quick fix to this case, and therefore go and lie so that we can fix this case and let somebody go to jail. I think he should answer for that, because it is not right for an Attorney General to do that. We all trust him. That's why he was put in that position. But if today, listening to Mr. Bentel, it looks like this group are using their power or wanting to abuse their power, I don't think it started from the NDC or from Jakpa. It must have started from the former Attorney General's time, when he wanted to abuse his power by wanting to jail somebody illegally. So I'm looking at how things are going to pan out, and I'm hoping that justice will be done, and that if he's found to have been to have done wrong, the law will take its course.
The law will take its course, Madam Obeng.
All right, so Mr. Bentel keeps talking about motive, but he needs to understand that motive doesn't disqualify the truth. The truth is what we are all seeking. What Jakpa has done is to seek the truth from the CID. And I think it's in the right direction. It will interest you to know that I had been having discussions with my lawyers to actually take on this case, because the Office of the Attorney General is a very high office. And so if the legal process can be manipulated with this level of impunity, then are we safe? Is our judiciary safe? And so what he has done is something that sides with me so much. And I think that allegations of this nature need transparent investigations. And it's even in the interest of the former Attorney General, because he could be clean. I had issues of he saying that the tape had been doctored, And so if that is the case, allow the investigation to take place. If you are vindicated, it helps your case. How would he live with his conscience, knowing that he has to carry this burden, when majority of Ghanaians think he is an obstacle to the law? How will he feel? So I think that it's going to help both sides. Jakpa and the people who think he is at fault. And for his case, if he's clean and he comes out after the investigation, it helps him. Mind you, he's a lawyer. If this thing comes out that he's culpable, what then happens? His license will be revoked by the General Legal Counsel. Mm-hmm. And so this is a very serious case. Unless we don't see the seriousness or what Jakpa is trying to achieve. So just like what I said, the truth is what we are all seeking. And motive doesn't disqualify truth. And so whatever the motive is, as Mr. Bentel sought to say, whether somebody thinks they are in power or whatever the motive is, we want the truth. And we are seeking for the truth. So that is just it.
I'm coming back to you, Mr. Bento, just asking you one of my last two questions. Madam Ayana talked about evidence fabrication, and you being a lawyer, I'm sure you're much aware about the Criminal Offences Act 1960 at 29. You looking at Section 213, that of course talks about penalties regarding evidence fabrication, and the fact that those who are found culpable actually could face same penalties as, you know, perjury and other stuff in that proceeding. How do you capture that in your argument, bearing in mind what the panel members have said about the seriousness of this case taken to the CID by Richard Japa?
There is a difference when somebody asks, or especially a prosecutor, would ask that somebody testify in a particular direction because they believe that is what happened. It can go as far as plea bargaining, where a prosecutor can even convert a criminal into an asset of the state to testify against their other criminals. So for me, for a prosecutor to ask that somebody who is under prosecution testify against another person with whom they committed a crime is not, for me, evidence fabrication. But somebody else thinks that, oh, this prosecutor was trying to get this person to lie against their colleague. Okay? I mean, I think they are free to think so. Whether it's true or not, none of us can tell. The way somebody absolutely believes that the prosecutor was trying to get this witness to lie against the other witness, that prosecutor also may absolutely believe that that person committed a crime and it is only this witness who can speak to it because they were together with them. My point is that it happened, and in the space of a trial or in the process of a trial, that is the best way to bring out the truth and properly explain it. And I think that has happened. If somebody believes that they were maliciously prosecuted, they should go ahead and do that. But if you are asked to testify to something, if you, Beatrice, tell me that, oh, Mr. Benton, I believe you saw this, and I tell you that I didn't see it, and therefore I didn't go ahead to say it, I really don't see where the problem is. But clearly, there may be more to this than meets the eye. It is very clear to me that there's a lot of political energy behind this. There's a lot of vengeance seeking behind this. There's a lot of projection of power behind this. And the persons involved are in a position where they can project state power. So I repeat, to the extent that the legitimate offices of state and the powers of state are being put to work on this matter, I have no problem. But we should all be aware of the fact that there is a very high likelihood of an abuse of power, and we should guard against that. Because if we keep doing that, there is no guarantee that the next round, when the next person comes into office, they will not do that. And then we citizens are left to, hold this bucket where we are funding people's personal vendettas. And then the work of state is left undone while people pursue their own personal vendettas. So if there is a case, yes, you should go ahead and pursue it. But it looks to me like something which, very much resembles, a revenge.
You think is political witch hunt, using my own words, but let me ask you this. Will it be fair to say that perhaps Mr. Japa is going ahead to the CID because that petition at the General Legal Counsel by that private individual perhaps has not seen any response as far as we are concerned?
Yes, that's, I think, a matter of fact. That the General Legal Counsel petition doesn't seem to be going the way they want. So clearly, it's fishing for another avenue to, exact this pound of flesh. That is why I'm saying we should all appreciate that if somebody has a right to do something, nobody should foreclose on it. But where the person is projecting the powers of state, where the person is occupying an office of state, we should all ward against the abuse of that office. I'm not saying he's abusing the office. I'm saying there's a potential to do so. And that is what we should ward against, because it is not good for anybody, especially we citizens, that the offices of state are used to prosecute personal agendas. It's not good.
What do you look forward to? And that's my final question to you before I come to the panel.
Well, I think he's made his appeal to the CID. I really trust the persons at the CID to do a professional work. But we must not be naive. If somebody in a high office of state goes to make some of these complaints to the CID, it becomes a burden on the CID to do the work and do it more expeditiously, and there will be some pressure on them to do the work in a way that satisfies these persons who are sitting in high political office. So that brings a certain pressure on the CID, which I wish was not there. But I'm hoping that they'll be able to manage that pressure and do a professional work. And if it turns out that indeed the person made the errors, prosecute the person. But if it turns out that indeed what is being accused did not happen, I pray that the CID will have, the wherewithal to tell the complainant that, please, you do not have a case, go home, do your work, and let the case continue.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bento, for joining us on the conversation. Kofi Bento there, he's private legal practitioner and also vice president of policy think tank Imani Africa, sharing his thoughts both on the GBA coming under the scrutiny again and also the Richard Japa case against Godfred Yeboah-Dame, former Attorney General. Madam Ayana, I'm coming to you. Mr. Bento seemed to still suggest, even in his old submissions, that this seems more like a political agenda than trying to correct somebody who might have gone wrong in a legal process.
Exactly the same thinking of the MPP governments in 2024. It's the same political agenda. Was it also a personal vendetta against Atu Forson by Odami when Odami wanted to, by all means, put him in jail? Was that a personal vendetta? You see, sometimes when we are talking, we should also look at the other side. I mean, if you make a statement, like if we keep doing the same things, it means that it has happened before. Was it right? No, it was wrong. But at the end of the day, let us at least give credence to the fact that we have a judicial system that we trust and we hope will do right by law. And therefore, if Godfred Adame is not guilty, that's it. He's not going to be charged for anything. He walks. So I don't see why we still think that there is some form of political pressure or political vindictiveness or political witch hunting in a case like this. The court is there for people to go. It's there for people to go to. If you're not sure about anything, you're free to go to the courts. And the MPP believes in that system. All through from 2017 to 2024, we were told, go to court, go to court. If you don't understand anything, go to court. So now Japa is going to court. So what's the deal?
Well, he's going to the CID, and Mr. Bento disagrees with that. He thinks that if he has issues, this is a legal issue, he can still go and file a different criminal case that this man tried to force me to give false evidence. Is
the CID's office, is it something that is way out of the ordinary Ghanaian taking a case to a CID? I don't think so. So if you have a choice of either going this way or that way, and you've decided to go to the CID, I don't see anything wrong. What we expect of the CID is for them to be able to investigate the case and then be truthful to us as to what they find. If they find Odami guilty, it goes to court and he's going to be dealt with. If he's free, free. But if they find him that, oh, there was no wrongdoing, that's it, he walks. So I think that we should all have a very straight mind of not thinking that this is all witch hunting, this is all political, whatever. It isn't. It isn't. It is a case where somebody has been wronged and he just feels like I have been wronged and I just need to put closure to this case. Because let's also look at certain issues that came out of this Japa case. The dishonorably charged Japa. That's all we used to read. Dishonorably charged from the army for this behavior, for this misconduct, for that misconduct. Do you think he doesn't have blood flowing through his veins?
But every lawyer would want to pick the other side of the opponents just to make the case good.
And that man feels that people have sold him out as a dishonorable person. He wants to clear himself. That's it. So let him go. Let him go to his CID. Let them investigate. If there is nothing to hide, then that's it.
But again, what further closure do you need when the court has already acquitted you and the man that in your own submissions, the then Attorney General wanted to frame and jail?
The court acquitted him of wrongdoing. But he, as an individual, believes that the Attorney General did wrong. So I have acquitted myself, and now it's your turn to acquit yourself. So is it wrong? It's not wrong. Let him do what he has to do. You say, I have done this. I've been to court. The court has acquitted me. But I think that you, that person who took me to court, did wrong. So you should also go and acquit yourself of wrongdoing. There's nothing wrong with that. So Jakpa has every right to say the CID should look into the case, because you see, let's not play with this issue of evidence fabrication, evidence tampering. It has sent a lot of people to jail. You understand? When people have the power to do certain things, they do it. Even when you go to the police station, sometimes to write your, whatever they call
your
it.
Statement.
Your statement. Sometimes the police insists, oh, fabrication, or put this one there. And even if the worst one is when you cannot even write, then they have to write, oh boy, you need somebody to come and actually read it and interpret it to you. Otherwise, what is that? Because they want a case to go. They just want to fix the case so that they can jail somebody and say that they've done well. These are things that happen. I'm not saying that all the cases that the police do, but I'm only saying
because
that...
I've been to the police myself. I wasn't asked to put certain things there.
Yes, you were not asked to put anything there. But then you read about people that are, and then said, oh, no, you know, that kind of thing. All these things happen at our places of justice delivery. So let us allow the system to see through this. I don't think there's anything wrong with Jakpa sending it to the CID if it is the right thing to do. If it is a choice that he has to make between the CID and maybe another, is it the legal counsel?
Kofi Bento didn't talk about the legal counsel, but that's where I was coming in. He thought that Jakpa could still go ahead and file another case at the court if he feels that what the former Attorney General did was criminal. And so if we're really looking at the legal case, already somebody has gone to the General Legal Counsel. 4 months down the line, you're going to the CID. You could perhaps also follow up at the General Legal Counsel and say that your member misrepresented himself or misconducted himself, so you should take an action against him.
Could it also be that Jakpa wants the CID to delve into this issue more and probably come out with other findings? Could it be? We don't know.
And the court couldn't find that during the trial, which eventually led to acquittal?
At that time, Odame was not on the slate. It was Jakpa. This time, Odame is on the slate. So this time, they are investigating Odame, not Jakpa. So there's something there. I mean, I don't think we should look at this thing as witch hunting. Let us just let Jakpa go. I don't think anything is going to come out of this. You understand? Caution here and there, and that's it. That's what I think.
Madam Mbe, what do you think?
I think anybody who seeks to suggest that it's witch hunting has something to hide. That is what I think. And Jakpa taking this to the CID clearly, I think we seem to forget that there's an audio in the picture. So the CID has the responsibility to carry out investigation to ascertain the audio. Because in the audio, I was very dumbfounded the day I heard the audio. Because we heard the former Attorney General telling Jakpa to falsify information, to incriminate the now finance minister for personal reasons, because he had already been to trial and said that he acted on the instruction of his boss in his capacity as a deputy finance minister. And so he had a case. But then the former Attorney General was bent on making sure that Mr. Atuforsen finds himself in trouble. And so he sought to induce Jakpa to lie against Mr. Atuforsen. And so because of the audio, the CID is the right place for Mr. Jakpa to have gone to. Issues of he going to the General Legal Counsel, I agree. However, as soon as the former Attorney General is found culpable, straight away he should go there so that they can revoke the license of the former Attorney General. We cannot waste time at all. Because personally for me, I cannot wait for minutes or seconds if he's found culpable. So that is an action I expect from Jakpa to take as soon as the case is established at the CID that the tape was indeed his voice. and he sought to induce it. And please, let's not personalize this. This has to do with a high office of the Attorney General. How do we feel that our office of this stature has been reduced to manipulation? How are we even looking at this? How do we feel, Madam Rodlin, that the office of the Attorney General is a vehicle to manipulate and to tamper with evidence? How do we feel about that? And so for me, I'm more than happy. I already said that. I was already...
You're actually going to take the case
Yes, with
up.
my lawyers. And so I think he had taken a step ahead of me. And so I can only clap for him. But it's in the spirit to ensure that we establish the truth, not to say that the former Attorney General is guilty. And he should even be happy about it.
Well, so far, we haven't heard any comment from him as to whether or not he's happy.
Then I would advise him to come out and say that
let him go. I have nothing to hide.
Yes,
I have nothing to hide.
he takes it in good faith, and he is even very excited about it because he wants to clear his name and the name of the office of the Attorney General. So that is just my submission.
Let me
you
get
so
your
much.
final word, and then I'll get the final word of Madam Rodlin as well on this very case.
So I'm expecting him to come. You said he's not come out yet.
Yes.
So he should come out between today and tomorrow. Yes, between today and tomorrow, and say that, Japa, thank you so much for initiating a process that has the potential to vindicate me.
But he shouldn't be obliged to do that. He has the right to talk or not
Unless he's guilty. But if he's not guilty, he should take advice. He's a lawyer, so he knows better. He should come out. He should come out because I am very particular about the office of the Attorney General, not the individual. Not the individual. Anyway, I don't know if he will take my advice in good faith because he keeps on giving bad advice to Madam Tokono.
Well, that's another issue that we haven't even tackled
Yes,
yet.
so that
But
is
remember
just
that now Equality is the lead counsel for Madam Getru
He's a
Tokono
lead
anyway.
advisor. You have no idea. He's part of the team. So
I
you
know
just
he's
can't
part
do
of the
this.
team, but Equality is
But
also
anyway, this
now
is about
leading
him. So
a
he
lot of
should
stuff. Yes.
advise himself. So thank you so much.
But let me get your thought, your final thoughts.
For me, I
Madam
think
Ayana.
that whatever happens, we should always make sure that the law works, and we should have faith in the law and with the judiciary, and also tell ourselves that these things that we do is not just for our personal consumption, but it's something that we're doing for Ghana, for everybody to have that faith and that belief that when you're in power, you shouldn't abuse it, do the right things. So if we start to think that because others are in power, we are sort of witch hunting them because we now have power, that kind of thing, it's wrong. It shouldn't be that case at all. There should be no witch hunting no matter what. So anyone taking a public office must work in the spirit of the Constitution, and we must all feel safe in it.
Thank you so much, Madam Ayana. Thank you very much. And you just listened to and watched Rodlin Ayana. She is a public interest advocate. And of course, we had as well Mr. Kofi Bento, who is a private legal practitioner, vice president in Mani Africa, and right here in the studio as well with us, Rosemond Obey, who is presidential staffer. Thank you so much for joining us on the panel. There's a comment here coming through from Y. It says, Lawyer Kofi Bento is not being honest in his submission in the Jakpa's case. The former AG was advised by the court to rescue himself when the issue was reviewed in open court. Lawyer Bento is aware of this development during the trial. So why is Lawyer Bento pretending not to know, or is he politically inclined? Lawyer Bento, please come clean and clear. Well, that'll be it for the big issue here on New Day on TV3. But just to remind you that it's here again, the 14th Ghana Economic Forum, Ghana's most influential platform for economic dialogue and policy action. Join us on Tuesday, the 28th of October 2025 at the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City, Accra, as over 300 leaders leaders from government, business, diplomacy, and development gather under the theme Currency Stability, a Research for Sustainable Economic Growth. Now, this year's forum will feature powerful plenary sessions on strengthening the economy and finance, unlocking energy and renewable solutions, and transforming agriculture and its value chain. Expect bold conversations, actionable strategies, and high-level networking that will shape Ghana's industrial future. The Ghana Economic Forum 2025, powered by the Business and Financial Times, with support from our valued partners and sponsors, Bank of Ghana, Fidelity Bank, KPMG Ghana, Arthur Energy Advisors, Olam Agri, the Bank Hospital, Metro TV, Asasi Radio, TV3, Joy FM, City FM, Channel 1 TV, Happy FM. Don't miss out on this defining national conversation. Remember that for partnership and sponsorship, you can always call 0244 689 521 or 0209 457427 or visit GhanaEconomicForum.com. The 14th Ghana Economic Forum, where Ghana's future takes shape. Do stay with us. We'll be back shortly.